In a quiet field in Elbert County, Georgia, stood one of the strangest monuments in modern history. Known as the Georgia Guidestones, it was a massive granite structure, often called America's Stonehenge. But unlike Stonehenge, this wasn't ancient. It was built in 1980, commissioned by an anonymous client under the pseudonym R.C. Christian. On its slabs were 10 guides for humanity carved in 8 different languages, calling for a new world order, rules for civilization itself. The most shocking guideline? That humanity should be maintained at a population of 500 million people. Today on Elitology, we explore what the Georgia Guidestones were, who may have built them, why they referenced overpopulation, and what happened when they were mysteriously destroyed. What were the Guidestones? The monument consisted of 6 granite slabs, over 19 feet tall and weighing 240,000 pounds in total. It was aligned with astronomical precision, including features like a hole drilled to show the North Star, a slot aligning with the sun's solstices and equinoxes, a calendar and clock function. Etched on the stones were inscriptions in 8 languages: English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. The 10 guides included messages about living in harmony with nature, establishing a single world language, and balancing personal rights with social duties. But the most controversial of all was the very first guideline: maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. At the time, the global population was already more than 4.4 billion. Today, we are over 8 billion people, more than 16 times the number written on the stones. Why were they built? The man behind the stones, R.C. Christian, said he represented a group that wanted to offer a vision for humanity after a global catastrophe. The Cold War was raging, and fears of nuclear war were high. The stones, according to him, were meant to serve as guidelines for rebuilding civilization. But critics quickly labeled them elitist and even satanic. Who decides that humanity should be reduced to 500 million? To some, the stones weren't a peaceful vision. They were a manifesto for population control. Overpopulation and the elite view. For decades, elite thinkers have warned about overpopulation. Figures like Thomas Malthus in the 18th century predicted famine and collapse if population growth went unchecked. In the 20th century, books like The Population Bomb by Paul Ehrlich amplified fears that humanity was reproducing faster than Earth could sustain. And among some elites, this spawned disturbing language. The term useless eaters, allegedly used in Nazi Germany and echoed by certain modern technocrats, describes people seen as consuming resources without contributing value. To those who see the Guidestones as an elite project, the monument wasn't about peace. It was about declaring who deserves to survive in a resource-scarce future. So what would that mean? Today, the world has over 8 billion people. To reach 500 million would require the elimination of more than 7.5 billion lives, over 90% of humanity. Was it meant as a post-apocalyptic guideline, assuming a nuclear war had already reduced the population? Or was it a coded declaration of elite desire for depopulation? That's the debate. Critics argue the stones reflect the same mindset driving policies on population control, eugenics, and global governance. If elites view most of humanity as expendable, the Guidestones may have been their stone tablets declaring a future reset. The man who commissioned them, R.C. Christian, claimed to represent a small group of loyal Americans who believe in God. He insisted on anonymity, using a local banker as his go-between. To this day, his real identity has never been confirmed. Speculation ranges from secret societies like the Rosicrucians, note the initials RC, to wealthy environmentalists, to globalist planners who wanted to leave behind their philosophy for future generations. On July the 6th, 2022, at 4 a.m., an explosion ripped through the Guidestones, toppling one slab and damaging others so badly the entire monument had to be demolished later that day. Surveillance footage showed a figure planting an explosive device. To some, the destruction was an act of rebellion, ordinary people rejecting what they saw as elitist commandments. To others, it was a convenient way to erase a controversial monument, just as more people were starting to ask questions about it. To this day, no one has been charged, and the mystery of who destroyed them remains unsolved. Are we walking into the trap? While the Guidestones warned of keeping humanity under 500 million, our world now has over 8 billion. Yet at the same time, we are handing over more control to elites, sometimes without realizing it. Think about DNA testing companies. Millions willingly upload their genetic code to corporate databases. The elite don't need to hunt relics anymore. They can own our DNA directly. In the name of curiosity or health reports, we may be surrendering the very blueprint of who we are. Are we, unknowingly, walking into the same mindset that carved the Guidestones, allowing elites to decide who counts, who is useful, and who is expendable? The Georgia Guidestones stood for 42 years, a silent reminder that some people believe humanity itself needs to be redesigned, limited, or controlled. Whether they were meant as a post-nuclear guide or an elite agenda carved in stone, they left us with haunting questions. Who decides how many people should live? Who decides what freedoms we keep? And if the elites already think of us as useless eaters, what happens when their vision of a 500 million population collides with our reality of 8 billion? This is Elitology, where we uncover the hidden world of wealth, power, and mystery. Subscribe and join us as we continue to explore the secrets the elite don't want you to question.